The thing that I think is important and significant about having moved this church from San Pedro to Green Hills Memorial Park has to do with what I consider to be our two-part mandate in managing this very unique and beautiful facility here on the peninsula. And the first part of that is that we have a mandate to both maintain and embellish these surroundings. The second part is that we are in the business of preserving people's life memories, giving them a place to remember and celebrate the lives of those that passed. This church coming here, I think, accomplishes both for us. It preserves something for the community, and it certainly fills that mandate for the embellishment part. It is a point of beauty and interest here at Green Hills.
The story that this church brings is a story of a lifetime. It's a lifetime of living in San Pedro, how the first citizens of San Pedro used it, and how it progressed through the years, how San Pedro developed, this church developed.
The church is a gathering of people and not a building. And the earliest gathering of people in 1884 almost immediately built themselves a building, and that's the building that's now at Green Hills. So the people worshiped in that building at 2nd and Mesa for many, many years. And as the harbor was being built and the hill they were on was leveled, it was moved to Beacon Street between 10th and 11th.
St. Peter's is the oldest church, the oldest congregation in San Pedro. Currently, we have families that have been here for generations, which is one of the things that's so interesting about this church and this community, because in California, that's kind of unusual.
I was baptized in 1929 at Old St. Peter's. It had its place, and it was sort of a historical monument down there. We didn't have the spread out locations like we do now. It was mainly 6th Street down 6th and Pacific.
The church was the central social atmosphere for my family and many families. We had one priest, the Reverend Oscar J. Nurse. His wife had a doctorate in music, so we had a doctor and a nurse, both.
In 1956, the building that's now at Green Hills was given to the city of Los Angeles. At some point, it was declared a historic building and moved to Harbor View Cemetery.
I got really acquainted with the old chapel when I was teaching Sunday school. I used to take my class once a year down to the chapel so that they could see where their roots were and what it was like many years ago. People in the city of San Pedro and the 2030 Club raised the money to move the church from 10th and Mesa over to 24th and Grand. The first 10 years, 15 years, it was really taken care of. There was concerts on Sundays, but then all of a sudden, it just got forgotten.
I decided that I wanted to be married at St. Peter's Chapel when I reviewed my article that I wrote on the chapel and realized that it was an important piece of San Pedro history. When I was outside, it was 1996, and I walked through the door and it was 1886. When I was prepping for the wedding, I noticed that there was graffiti on the side of the chapel, and also I noticed that the vandals had apparently burned some pieces of siding off the chapel. They had used it for firewood. And at the time we were married, we were very, very fortunate in as much as the altar was intact, the candelabras were intact. Following our wedding, that was not the case at all. Approximately a year later, the vandals struck hard.
That's sad because there were some lovely things in there, especially the angel lectern, and that's gone.
I honestly got to the point where I didn't want to go down there anymore because it wasn't a little old church. It was a building that had been basically destroyed.
Had we not been married there, it would have probably gone into disarray much sooner.
It was dying slowly, it was being abused, it was being neglected, it was being tagged. Homeless people were living underneath it and around it. They had broken numerous stained glass windows. It was only a matter of time that it would have met its demise by either fire or just falling down.
This whole project of moving St. Peter's Church from San Pedro to Green Hills Memorial Park actually started with an article in the regional newspaper, the Daily Breeze. The author of that article, Donna Littlejohn, had written about how the church was rapidly deteriorating. That was a little over 4 years ago, and I read a woman's comments, and she made the statement or posed the question, why don't they move this church to Green Hills? And in my mind, I said, why not?
When you look at the move of trying to bring a historic building, which we didn't know anything about the structural integrity, and to bring it 5 or 6 miles across town, I thought it would be an easy task. But little did I know that it was far more difficult than was originally contemplated, in that we had to take it apart, and in taking it apart, we had to try to preserve it so it didn't fall apart.
It created hurdle after hurdle. As you can imagine, we're in one city, the church was in another. The city of Los Angeles has department after department, all of them needed to be involved.
They let me know when the hearing was coming with the city, and my associate and I were able to attend and be a part of that conversation and really underscore for them how important it was for St. Peter's that the building be well cared for. Restoring it would be the best way to preserve the memories it had for this community, but also for San Pedro.
We could have rebuilt a new building, but it would not have looked like this church, nor would have been built structurally like this church. With the new building codes and the requirements, would have not have used the same processes nor the same materials. The biggest surprises that we had in the move was how we had to cut it in half and remove the top from the bottom of the church.
I saw little pieces of wood all throughout the cemetery, and I thought, how are they going to put this back together again? I was actually worried for it. I was concerned because I thought the idea is great, but to put this all back together as it should be, good luck.
When I heard that when they wanted to move it, the biggest problem is that there was nothing inside the church, no structure to hold it up. No pillars or big poles to hold it up. It would have fallen down if they tried to move it without. I think they built part of it and put poles and stuff inside of it to hold it up so they could move it. I did know that much of the nail work outside, the nails were wooden and square. That makes it old.
Once the roof was off, the building didn't have the kind of integrity that a frame house has. So they basically built almost a whole structure inside the structure to hold it together and make sure it didn't get racked around and weakened.
They had to do an awful lot of work. When they took off the steeple and they put metal plates down over the cemetery and kept moving them, and put everything on those flat-bedded trucks, I just couldn't see them getting it out of there.
There are all kinds of specialists in the world. You can go to a specialist for your ears or your eyes, but these were the guys to move a church.
When we had Reverend Cindy bless the church, I figured that was the absolute best way to start that evening.
Well, it just about moved me to tears to be asked to bless the move. And it reminded me that we weren't just moving some wood up the road, but that this is an important time. It was an exciting community event. It interestingly drew out local residents who just in that area had seen things going on, and they were waiting too.
I was really surprised by the number of people that came out to be at the Harborview Cemetery and watch the initial part of that move as the church actually came off the cemetery grounds and made the turn onto the public streets. We had great people affecting that move. They did a tremendous job.
The move itself was so fast for a church, my goodness. I would have thought it would take half the night. It took 2.5 hours to go from 24th and Grand to inside the gates.
When it was actually moved out of the cemetery, I thought, finally it's going to be safe. That's the main thought I had. Finally, the vandals will not be having campouts inside the chapel. It'll be respected. The history will be respected.
What we planned to do with this church is, from the beginning, was to maintain as much of its historical presence as possible. So obviously we had to come in, we've got a sizable concrete foundation we had to put on there and make it fit the not real square measurements of the church. That was necessary for current building codes and safety and everything.
You know, you would say it was a time capsule because it takes the old workmanship of the 1800s and really brings it to its present day. What we're doing is restoring it back to its original condition by remaking wood, the same types that were used, by trying to use the same craftsmanship. My assumption was that the wood under the shingles had been a lot better condition than it was. A lot of the nails were non-existent and were just by the love of God being held together with a little bit of faith and a little bit of love.
The original cone shape at the top of the belfry was destroyed in its very first move. It fell off, broke, and they just left it off. From pictures, we have reconstructed that, which I think it takes it back more to its original historic look, but of course that's new.
It almost seems like they're putting the spirit back into it by nonstop work. It's like they're trying to pump it up again and make it the chapel that it needs to be and that it is.
The bell is the original bell. It's engraved, shows that it was made for this church in San Francisco, 1883. We have refurbished all of the stained glass windows that were still intact. All of the interior wood is part of the original structure. The flooring for about 75% of the inside is original. We salvaged all of the existing pews.
And my sense is that nobody will go in there and think, oh, this was made in the modern era to imitate something that's genuine. I think the genuineness of the building is, as a restored building, is going to be quite evident. Seeing
the transformation of the chapel is almost like jumping into a time machine.
It's in the best shape now that it's been in 100 years, undoubtedly.
And now that Green Hills has it, what has been done so far, I think, is amazing. It will become the little old church again.
We committed to it, we overcame all the hurdles, we got it here. It will last for another 100 or 200 years or more. It is properly put back together. We will use our endowment care fund to make sure that it never deteriorates again. Certainly the doors are going to be open a lot. People will be welcome to come in to see it, welcome to come in for a prayer.
It was a part of my life, and I look back with interest on it, and I'm just happy it's in a place where it can be taken care of.
It is aesthetically so pleasing. We consider this a rescue and a really good thing for everybody.
It makes me very, very happy to see Green Hills restore a part of San Pedro.
I know I speak for the whole congregation as the rector when I say that we are very grateful to Green Hills for taking this project on and for moving and restoring Old St. Peter's.
No one has to worry about it again. It's in good hands.
Looking at it now, I'm beyond impressed. I'm so happy that it's in this place where it's safe, protected, and most of all appreciated.
Its life at Green Hills will be a benefit to the community. We open it up to all members of the community, regardless of denomination or faith. And we really look to have it used and loved by everyone who comes here, to be cherished by the people who just drive by and look at it, to the people who sit on their graves and stare out across the horizon and see it in the distance, and those people that actually go inside it. And we at Green Hills, all of us, the board of directors and all the members of staff, would love to see people use it and embrace it to its fullest.